Schönen späten Vormittag aus meinem West-Londoner Homeoffice. Mein Name ist Renate Schnutt und ich bin Ansprechperson für österreichische Startups in Wachstums-, Expansions- und Marktfragen hier in UK. Ich werde Sie heute durch unser Webinar International Growth Strategies mit Fokus B2C begleiten. Wir werfen einen kurzen Blick auf das heutige Programm. Nach einem kurzen Brexit-Update unseres Wirtschaftsdelegierten Christian Käsberg switchen wir auch gleich in das Thema rein mit unserem britischen Experten Howard Kingston. Abschließend haben wir auch eine kurze Q&A-Session für Sie geplant. Das Webinar dauert circa eine Stunde bis 12 Uhr. Ich möchte nun Christian Käsberg vor das virtuelle Mikrofon bitten, um ein paar kurze Worte tagesaktuell zum Thema Brexit zu liefern.
Danke, Renate, und willkommen auch von meiner Seite in London, aus London zu einem kurzen Besuch am Krankenbett des britischen Patienten. Als Covid-19 die Inseln besucht, trifft das Virus bereits auf einen wirtschaftlich geschwächten Gegner. Die Geburtswehen des Brexit haben hier schon 2018 und 2019 für eher matte Wachstumsentwicklung gesorgt. Und auch die Prognosen für heuer und fürs nächste Jahr waren ganz ohne Virus eher anämisch. Covid-19 fehlt auch in Großbritannien auf einen fruchtbaren Nährboden. Das Gesundheitssystem des Landes ist seit einem Jahrzehnt auf Sparflamme. Die Bevölkerung ist krank. Die Bevölkerungsdichte ist um das Vierfache höher als in Österreich. Die sozialen Ungleichgewichte, die auch um vieles massiver sind als am Kontinent, begünstigen die Verbreitung der Infektion. Und dazu kommen in einem Land, das von einem vielleicht eher zahmeren, aber doch Populisten geführt wird, politische Fehlentscheidungen und Fehlstellungen am Anfang der Pandemie, die auch dazu beitragen, dass Großbritannien zum Pandemie-Europameister wird, mit einer Übersterblichkeit, die um das Siebenfache bezogen auf 100.000 Einwohner höher ist als Österreich. Und diesen Titel verteidigen die Briten auch leider unangefochten weiter. Es ist kaum gelungen, das Land im Sommer auf die zu erwartende zweite Welle vorzubereiten. Deswegen geht es hier wirtschaftlich auch beträchtlich steiler bergab und flacher nach oben als anderswo. Die Wirtschaftsleistung ist im ersten Halbjahr um fast 20% eingebrochen. Fürs Gesamtjahr werden minus 11% erwartet, und das ist schon mies im Verhältnis zu den minus 7, die das WIFO für Österreich prognostiziert. Schlimmer ist der Umstand, dass die Wachstumsraten für 2021 und 2022 nicht ausreichen werden, um Großbritannien vor 2023 wieder in die volkswirtschaftliche Gewinnzone zurück zu katapultieren. Und über all dem droht das Damoklesschwert des Abgangs aus der Europäischen Union ohne ein Abkommen, ohne eine Vereinbarung. Das Spiel, das hier gespielt wird, hat immer denselben Titel: britische Souveränität versus Integrität des Binnenmarktes. Die Briten wollen ein hohes Maß an Unabhängigkeit, ein schwieriger Ansatz, weil jeder völkerrechtliche Vertrag mit Souveränitätsverlusten verbunden ist. Die Union will robuste Garantien gegen den unlauteren Wettbewerb. Die Verhandlungen gehen munter weiter. Es ist ein Chicken Game, ein Feiglingsspiel in Echtzeit, von dem wir einen Ausgang frühestens in der übernächsten Woche erwarten können, vielleicht auch später. Es bleibt spannend bis zum Schluss. Arbeitshypothese bleibt natürlich ein mageres Freihandelsabkommen, das zumindest Zölle und Quoten reduziert, aber man muss sich auf Null setzen, man muss sich vor Augen halten, auf jeden Fall verlässt Großbritannien am 1. Jänner den Binnenmarkt, die Zollunion und das harmonisierte Umsatzsteuergebiet, was zu massiven Verwerfungen kurzfristig im Grenzverkehr, im Warenverkehr, bei der Dienstleistungserbringung führen wird und was das Geschäft mit Großbritannien in der Zukunft schwieriger und teurer macht. Es macht es aber weder unmöglich, noch macht es das Geschäft mit den Briten unprofitabel. Großbritannien bleibt der zweitgrößte Markt Europas. Großbritannien bleibt ein spannender Absatzmarkt für österreichische Produkte. Wir treffen uns gut mit dem, was wir können und dem, was die Briten brauchen. Und Großbritannien bleibt auf jeden Fall ein eine interessante Kooperationsplattform, ein Wissens- und Trendknoten für Hightech-Unternehmen und für Startups. Darum, um dieses Thema geht es heute ganz besonders. Die Themen, die das Ökosystem bestimmen, die hohe Dichte an akademischer und unternehmerischer Auseinandersetzung mit Zukunftsthemen, die Nähe zum Risikokapital des Finanzsektors, die bleiben alle erhalten, und deswegen bleibt auch die Expertise hier, die uns und Ihnen helfen kann, die Möglichkeiten, die sich in der Finanzierung, im Scale-up, in der Internationalisierung hier bieten, auch zu nutzen. Damit wünsche ich Ihnen eine tolle Veranstaltung und zurück an die Renate Schnutt, die Sie jetzt durch den Rest des Programms führen wird. Vielen Dank.
Ja, in Zeiten wie diesen, in denen wir zu einem scheinbaren Stillstand gezwungen sind, eröffnen sich meiner Meinung nach unerwartete Wachstumschancen. Branchen und Industrien, in denen Remote Working und digitale Geschäftsmodelle lange Zeit einfach kein Thema waren, haben sich innerhalb von kürzester Zeit auch in den neuen Gegebenheiten zurechtgefunden. To be connected in a disconnected world ist unser neues Selbstverständnis, und das wäre vor einem Jahr noch völlig undenkbar gewesen. Es zeigt aber auch auf, welches Growth Potential in uns steckt, und wir sind zu mehr fähig, als wir annehmen. Und ich denke, es ist auch an der Zeit, das entsprechend zu honorieren, mit einem eigenen Klopfen und diese außerordentlichen Leistungen auch anzuerkennen. Und selbstverständlich ist diese Phase geprägt durch viele Fragen und Unsicherheiten, die hastig gewählte Strategien mit sich bringen, außerhalb der Komfortzone und natürlich besonders in fremden Märkten. Daher möchten wir mit dem heutigen Webinar Impulse und Hilfestellungen anbieten, damit Sie den zahlreichen Anforderungen auch gut begegnen können. Now the time has come, and I'm changing the language a little bit because I would like to welcome a very special guest. So Howard Kingston is our go-to man when it comes to growth strategies, and he will open up his toolkit a little bit for us, and will show you what we can do in the new normal. How are you, Howard?
I am wonderful, Renata. Thanks for inviting me back. It's always a pleasure to be here.
Welcome.
Cool. Hi, guys. Welcome along. It's a real honor to be here. So my name is Howard Kingston. I am both a marketer and a growth hacker. But I'm not just like that. I'm also an entrepreneur, and I've been setting up businesses for the last 15 years, but I'm always the person who's in charge of getting sales, getting customers, growth hacking the business. And what I want to share in this session today is how you guys can think about doing that too. Okay. I know a lot of you are going international, and that's something I've done multiple times myself, and I want to share with you how I think about doing that. But before I go too much further, if you're wondering where my accent is from, I'm from Ireland, and I'm here in London today. It's a little bit cold in London today. So I'd love to know where you guys are. I'd love to know where you guys are based right now. Just let me know the city where you're based in. Just share in the chat in the question area. I'd love to know where some of you guys are. Great, lovely, yeah. Great, Vienna. Love it, great. Cool, guys. So yeah, it's a real honor to be here. Now, there's a reason why I have this image on my first slide on today's session. Because, well, there's two reasons. One, I love rockets and I love space, and I've been kind of watching Elon Musk putting the latest astronauts into space recently. But also, when I was learning about rockets and rocket fuel and stuff like that, and rocket science, I learned a really interesting fact that when one of these rockets, like the one you have in front of you, the space shuttle, takes off, it burns off 96% of all of its fuel in the first 7 minutes. All right, so all of that, those huge fuel tanks, 96% of it is burnt off in the first 7 minutes. Why? Because it takes a lot of force to get off the ground. Now, once it gets into the space, it takes less force to stay there. Obviously, it has other issues like no oxygen, but it's that getting off the ground thing that takes a lot of effort. Why? Because gravity is holding it down. All right. Now, I remember when I was reading about that, I kind of thought, you know what, that kind of feels like when I was launching some of my earlier businesses, that's the way it felt like. You know, I was launching a business into a new market, and I felt like I was burning off a lot of energy, hustling away, doing all these different things. You know, in marketing, like you're never short of things to do, isn't that right? And I felt like I was burning off a lot of energy, but I kind of felt I wasn't always making the progress I should be for the effort I was putting in. And I just thought it was a really good analogy that I related to. Now, what I want to talk about in this session is that it doesn't need to be that way, because what I've learned over the years is when you know the right things to do, it's like almost like releasing gravity from your rocket. So you can go straight up much easier and faster. And that's what I really want to talk about today. Because here's the problem if you don't know how to launch into a new market right. First of all, you get really excited, you get the website right, you get the idea right, you tell all your friends that you're launching this business, you maybe even raise a little bit of investment so the investors are like, checking you out. And what happens is you launch it and you don't get any customers. And I remember when I launched a business when I was in university, it was my second business I ever launched, and I spent 9 months building the thing. Business plans, websites, all this good stuff. And I remember launching it and I didn't get any customers. And that feeling sucks. So we don't want that. The second thing is then, I think in today's world, and I know the type of people that are on this session that, Renata and her team kind of bring to a session like this, you guys are ambitious, right? You're not launching a business to, have 1 or 2 customers, every year for eternity. No, you guys are ambitious. You're trying to, take over the world. And I admire that. The downside, and I say the dark side to that, is that you want results. You guys want to go big. And so there's always this, you guys want to grow faster, and you always feel like maybe you're not growing fast enough, okay, if you don't know how to do it right. And then that can leave you with this thing called FOMO, all right? I don't know if you've heard of FOMO. It's what all the cool kids are saying these days. And it stands for fear of missing out. It's like that feeling when you told all your friends you wouldn't go to the party, and then you see on Instagram and stories that all of them are having a crazy good time, and you're sitting at home watching Netflix, and you get real envy. Well, as a startup founder, I think we get it. We just need to go onto TechCrunch, and we see all these like businesses going really, really big, and we can get that FOMO if we don't know how to do it right. Okay, so these are the things this is the challenge if we don't know how to do this stuff right, okay? But the opportunity that I wanna share with you is that if we do know how to do the right things, it's just about learning how to do the right things. If we do know how to do those things, we can have a constant flow of customers. If I look at my more recent businesses, my last business, we've grown to, we've offices all around the world, and we've clients like Nike and Adidas and Unilever and stuff, and doing really well. And my current business, I've entered into the Middle Eastern market, and we're doing really, really well. What's the difference between me now versus my first business in university? What's the difference? It's not that something magic happened. No, I just learned how to do it. I just like to share that story, because hopefully that should be encouraging for you. It's something you can learn how to do. It's not magic. It's not, like something mystical. It's just a skill you can learn, and you can do it right. And then when you get that consistent customers coming in, it starts giving you a feeling of velocity. And that is what I believe what I keep on saying is, this is what I call the growth mindset, when we know how to achieve what we want to. There's really two types of businesses I see at the moment. There's people who are, barely surviving in today's environment and gone into hibernation mode because the world has changed. I think how it's impacted you on this call in the last 6-9 months, I don't know. I do know it's impacted all of us, all right? Either big or small, it's impacted all of us, okay? So I just want to talk to that and say that there's two types of businesses I see though. There's people who are struggling to survive, and there's businesses who I see are thriving, okay? And what's the key difference? Well, the key difference is the people who have been able to pivot their offering to what's needed in today's market, but also being able to really master the art and science of selling things online. Because whereas before, some startup founders I speak to and entrepreneurs, doing digital marketing properly and growth, online sales and stuff properly was maybe a little bit of a maybe important, but a nice to have. Now it's a must have, because if you're not selling things online and you haven't mastered that skill of being able to acquire customers predictably online, you're not in business. Okay, and that's what we really want to focus on. So there's really three things that I think about when I'm thinking about marketing online. Okay, the first is you need to learn how to attract. You need to learn how to attract customers to your product. Now, this is classic marketing stuff, using things like having a brand that people know, like, and trust, having a message that people understand, having paid marketing like Facebook ads and Google ads that work predictably, and having organic marketing like your search engine optimization locked in. So when people search on Google, they know how to find you. Now, this is the stuff that people kind of think about when they classically think of marketing. But in today's world, it's not enough, because if you get really good at attracting people, but they all hit your website and then leave again, it's not enough. So we also need to know how to convert. Okay, and pen and paper, taking some notes would be a really good thing here if I was in your position. We also need to know how to convert, because if we get really good at, say, paid ads, let's say we get really good at Facebook ads and we're sending loads of people to our website, I see it all the time, and then none of them are signing up, and we're not getting any signups, we're not getting any trial signups or purchases. What's the point, really? So we also need to know how to convert them. Okay, convert them with good UX on our website, good messaging, good conversion rate optimization, good sales process. And when those two things are happening, well, guess what? You are going to start to go faster. And that's when we need the third part, and being able to accelerate. And the acceleration phase is really a couple of things: making sure we have the right retention in our product, making sure we are making data-driven decisions by reading the analytics properly, making sure that we have automation set up so we're not, in our marketing, so things are happening automatically. Okay, so these are the three things I really see when I look at, growth. You hear this word growth said a lot of times. These are the three key things for me. Okay, so I'd love to know for your company. Okay, let's talk about it in theory. Let's talk about it for you. I'd love to get a sense, and I'd love you to share in the chat. I'm going to ask you, I'm going to go around each of these, and I'd just love you to share. I want to get, imagine it's a traffic light, and you can be red. Red means things are not where you want them to be. It could be orange. Orange is, there's one or two things that work okay, but definitely room for improvement. Or there's green. Now, green is, things are working really, really well. Okay, so for each of these, I want you to color code yourself. So let's do attract first? I'd love you to share in the chat, because then it'll just give me a bit of a sense where you're at, and also it'll give you a little bit of a sense of what the next thing you want to focus on to improve is. Okay, so let's zoom in first on the attract phase. Now, what is your attraction like? Is it red, amber, green? And when I think a green attract would be you're getting positive return on investment on your ad spend. You're able to predictably bring people in organically using organic marketing. When I say organic, I mean unpaid marketing. Are you green? That is if you're getting a positive return on investment. Are you amber? There's a few things that are working, some things that aren't. Or are you red? A red is you don't really have a predictable lead flow coming in at all. So just share it in the chat. I'd love to hear, are you green, amber, or red? Yeah, so a real mix. Real mix, yeah, so great. A real mix, so got some reds, got some ambers, got some yellows. Yeah, great. Okay, so seems that it's a bit of a mix. Like I'd say amber is probably the single biggest one there. Now let's go on to convert. What is your sales conversion process like, and what is your website conversion like? A green would be, you know exactly your conversion rate, and it's like above benchmark in the industry. Amber is you get 1 or 2 sales, but you know there's room for improvement. Or red is you haven't figured out your sales process yet. So on the conversion side, green, amber, or red. Green, amber, or red. So got some ambers coming in. Red. So this is one that needs work. Good to know. Yeah, good to know. Okay, so this one will be a little bit more of a reddish tinge. That's all good to know. So we know where we can focus on. Okay, good. And finally, I'm going to flick onto accelerate. Now, accelerate is really, how automated are your systems? How well are you at being able to analyze your data so you're able to make strong data-driven decisions? And how good is your retention rate? Again, green, amber, or red. I've got some ambers coming in here. Got some good data-driven people on the call, I can see. That's what I like to hear. Yes, got some ambers and reds. Cool. Okay, so guys, these are what I wanted to do in the first part of this session is just really unpack, because sometimes, I find like marketing and sales can be like almost like this mystical black box, and people don't really, what do I need to do? Do I need to be like charismatic? Do I need to there's so many things to do. Well, these are the ways I like to pull them apart and focus. You want to focus on them in different parts, essentially. One is the attraction phase, one is the conversion, and then one is the acceleration to make sure everything is going as fast as it can. Okay. Now, one thing that I'm not going to cover that much in this session, because we've got a short session, is tools. Okay, and now I'm a growth hacker. I love my growth hacking tools, and I always get loads of questions. What's the best tool for this? What's the best tool for that? And we do have some time for question times afterwards. But what I do want to offer everybody is I have packed together, if you want to get all the latest growth hacking tools that I recommend, I won't have time to go through them all on this session, but I do have them packed up together in a nice little guide, which I have added to. I have a free online community for growth hackers and entrepreneurs. If you want to join it and get a copy of the growth toolkit, you can either go to howardkingston.com/FB, or just put your phone up to the screen on the camera mode, and you'll automatically pop up through QR code, enter to the group. Okay, so if you do want to get your growth hacking tools on, that is the best way to do it. All right, cool. So let's do it. So one thing I learned, I remember when I was launching a business a few years ago here in London, myself and some friends launched a gaming business, and we were very focused on the UK market. I remember I was here in London, and we launched it, and everything was very UK focused. It was obviously like, anything about it was in English, and we launched it, and we did really well. We did a lot of growth hacking stuff which I could talk about another time, but we grew it from 0 to 20 million users in 18 months. And one thing that was, there's like a series of things we did through that journey that was super interesting. If you look at, this is our growth numbers over time. Our growth curve kind of essentially went a little bit like this. Eventually we hit 20 million users, and there was a number of kind of like key growth hacks that we did at different points. But I remember the one being here. And this is when we really analyze our data, where our user base are, where people are using the product. And it was interesting that we always assumed that most of our user base was in the UK and would be in the UK because it was a very UK orientated game, and we did most of our marketing in the UK. But when we looked, I remember seeing that one of our largest territories was actually Turkey. And it was I remember being quite a surprise. It's like, right, we've never marketed in Turkey before, but like it's just gone viral in Turkey for some reason. So that insight led us to optimize the product to, we changed it to the Turkish, well, we had a Turkish language version, and we really kind of optimized for a market, for entering that market properly, because we were kind of being pulled into it. And that was one of the first kind of insights I had back then into the power of not just assuming your customers are in the market you're in. Okay, and like globally, the UK market on a global scale is really small. All right, so really getting that insight that there are lots of different, like the world is a big place, and a lot of times I see with startup founders, they kind of get obsessed with it is just that local, their own local market. So let's talk about if you are entering another market, what are the 3 hot principles I'd share if I was in your position entering a local market? So the first thing is to find your fit. Now, there's a term in the world of startups and the world of kind of lean marketing and lean startup called product market fit. Now, sometimes I find some of these words are thrown around and they're kind of almost like theoretical words, and it's like, oh yeah, I know about it. But I remember when I really learned the lesson of this a few years ago when I was launching a business in university, okay? And I remember I had this idea for a travel business, okay? And I was really excited. Everyone told me it was a great idea, as they do. And I remember going to my university professor and going, I've got this idea for this business. Like, what should I do? And of course, the university business, he was a business professor, so you think he'd know what, he'd know his stuff. And he said, oh, well, obviously, what you need to do is you need to write a business plan. And I was like, oh, okay. I didn't know any difference. I was like, okay. And I spent the next 6 to 9 months doing 2 things. One, writing an 80-page business plan, the most complete one, mentored by my university professor, the most complete business plan you've ever seen. All the analysis, the SWOT analysis, the macro analysis, all that stuff, right? And the second thing I did was I learned how to build a website. Didn't have any money to pay someone, so I learned that skill, which was useful. 9 months later, I'm ready to launch. And I remember I'd saved up about $1,000. And, back then, this is about kind of like 10 years, maybe just over 10 years ago. And, Facebook ads weren't really a thing back then. And, so I wasn't really that clued into that stuff. So I was like, okay, so I need my target customer. Yeah, someone told me about your target customer. So where are my target customers for this holiday product? It was America. For that case, all right, because I had this idea of bringing people with Irish ancestors from America to Ireland and bringing them on a tour around Ireland to visit their ancestors. Okay, so anyway, I kind of had a look, and there was a couple of magazines in America that were my prime target fit. One of them was called Irish American Magazine. I remember I thought, perfect, I'm gonna take out these ads in these places. And I remember the day the ads were going live in these magazines. I remember I had to tell all my friends I wasn't going to be hanging out with them that day because I had to be beside the phone, because the phone was going to start ringing and I had to be there to take calls and do the deals, like make it rain. All right. And I remember that day came, it was a Thursday, and I was sitting in my room on the campus of university and sitting by the phone, because I had a phone on my desk, like an old school phone. And I was waiting and waiting and waiting. What do you think happened? What do you think happened that day? What do you think happened that day? Simone, I love the confidence that you have in me and my product. I love, oh, lovely. Everyone has such confidence. Yeah, that is the truth though. I got no calls. And the next day I got no calls, and the next day I got no calls, right? And I was actually back then, I was entering this new market of America, like my only market, and I got no calls. And a week or so later, after I checked the phone line was working, and I rang the magazine to see, did that really go live in the magazine? They were like, yep, that definitely went live. Here's the copy. I was like, oh. So after I got over the pain and I was distraught because all my friends were like, how did the launch go? And I was like, oh. I started reflecting. I was like, what happened there? I just spent the last 9 months trying to build this product, and no one wanted it. No one wanted it. And it made me think, I spent 9 months writing this 80-page business plan. I spent 9 months writing this 80-page business plan. What if I just spent half the time writing a 40-page business plan and then put the ad in the magazine? What would I have learned? And kind of thought, I would have learned the same thing, wouldn't I? And no one would have wanted to buy it. And I thought, well, hold on, what if I just wrote a 10-page business plan in a month and then put the ad in the magazine in America? What would have happened next? I still would have learned there was an issue with the product. No one wanted to buy it. Huh. And then I thought, hold on, what if I didn't write any business plan? And maybe I spent half a day just on a business plan and then put the ad in the magazine on day 2. Wouldn't I have learned the same thing? Huh. And if you agree, the answer is yes. I would have learned that there was something fundamentally wrong with my product offering, and it wasn't interesting enough for people to pick up the phone and call me and want to buy it. Okay. Now, of course, I'm not saying there's no value in planning, guys. Of course there is, but in today's world, rather than doing an 80-page business plan, you should be doing something called a lean canvas. Now, I'm not going to cover a lean canvas today. Some of you may know it. If you don't, Google it. Lean Canvas is a wonderful book by Ash Maurya called Running Lean. You need to know it, okay? But essentially what it is, it's a 1-page business plan. And I know investors, certainly in London now, will take that rather than a normal business plan, okay? So a lean canvas. So now I do a lean canvas rather than a business plan. And one of the key things I learned was in the lean canvas, there's a part of it that says, what is your riskiest assumption? Okay, now, this is the process it goes. 1, what is your riskiest assumption? Okay, now, in my case, in the holiday business was that no one would buy it. Okay, now, I use this process every single time now I'm launching a new product, okay? And I do it and it minimizes my failure, okay? Let me give you an example. I was helping a friend launch a giant zipline business in London about 2 years ago, okay? Rang me up and said, need some help. I said, cool, let's do this first. So a giant zipline, the world's fastest zipline ever in London city centre beside Big Ben, okay? Obviously costs quite a lot of money to build that. So he wanted to test, and I suggested to him that we test product market fit first. So the first thing is test the riskiest assumption. Well, what it might be the riskiest assumption there, and I'd like you to do this with me. I can just talk theoretically, but think in your mind, what's the riskiest assumption there? Sure, insurance and stuff like that, but let's assume all that stuff is taken care of. Well, probably the riskiest assumption is that no one would buy it. But imagine building a big zip line and no one buys it. So one is someone buying something, just like mine was for the holiday business. And then the second part is, how do you run a test what I call the minimum viable test to test your riskiest assumption. Okay, how do you put it? And my rule for a minimum viable test is, how do I launch this and see if people will buy it in the next 36 hours with minimal budget? So it's not overcomplicating things, building a big website. For my friend, how would you do that for a zip line? Like, have a think about that. How would you practically do that? I want you to, this is what I call the growth mindset, guys. I want you to think about this. How would you do that? Share in the chat if you've got an idea there. I'll tell you what we did. We whipped together an Eventbrite page. Eventbrite, didn't even build a website. Eventbrite is built and ready to go, and it converts well, and people are familiar with it. We put lots of stuff on there about the zipline launching, about it being live, and there was some early bird tickets ready. And then we ran some ads from Google Ads because we saw people were searching for zip lines, and we put some ads straight to the Eventbrite page, and people started buying the tickets, even though it didn't exist yet. Okay, and that allowed us to validate that based on the number of people that were buying the tickets, if we multiplied the ad spend, that there is a demand, a clear demand here. Okay, so the first thing is you want to find your fit, and you want to prove your product market fit. Okay, and that usually means getting it out to the market earlier than you want to. Okay, so that is my first thing. You need to get, if you're thinking about entering this new market, get it into the market and start getting user feedback on it ASAP. The second thing you want to do is you want to be able to fill your funnel. Okay, you need to be able to get a lot of customers in as fast as possible. Once you do get that product market fit, then you want to commit and you want to enter the market as fast as you can. Now, the thing I do on that is I like to think about it in tribes. And when you're entering a new market, there's two ways you can do it. One, you can enter the market yourself. You can start, like, ultimately, let's say you're entering the UK. You need to build a audience of people. You need to probably build up like an email list of leads, and you need to build up, people come to your website and stuff like that. All right. Now, that's fine, but what is and you will need to do that at some point. But what's the challenge with that? The challenge is it takes time and it takes money. And if, unless you've raised $10 million, like, probably, budgets are tight. So how do you do it in a faster way? Okay, now I always think when I'm entering a new market, this is what I think. All right, and this is always the way I enter a market. I've got two options. One, I could build my own audience with, ads and, social posts and all this kind of good stuff. Or I could find someone else who has already built exactly the same type of audience of the customers I'm going for. And I could see if I could kind of connect myself, or I could partner with them in some way. Okay, so what you think about is a tribe is a group of people who have a shared interest. Where in your market that you're entering, is there already a large group of established people of your exact audience? Okay, so let me brainstorm some things. But the way I like to think about that is, where did they go? Where do they go online? Are there any, for example, Facebook groups? Of course there are. Are there any LinkedIn groups of your target audience? Of course there are. Are there any conferences they go to? Of course there are. Okay. What do they buy? Is there any software, other complementary SaaS or software products that they subscribe to? Are there any kind of memberships they're members of? So, for example, if you're going after dentists, the dental association. If you're going after tech founders, there's some tech founder groups in UK you need to know about, things like that, or whatever market you're going after. And then one is go, one is buy, and the last one is learn. Where does your market consume information? What blogs do they read? What influencers do they follow? And what podcasts do they listen to? Now, really practically, before I'll enter a market, I'll brainstorm all of them. I'll spend about an hour with me and my team on a whiteboard, coming up with like 30 ideas. And by the way, what you don't do here is you don't go, oh, they go on Facebook. No, you want to know what Facebook group they're part of. See how the difference there? You come up with 30 ideas, and when you have the 30 ideas in front of you, there'll be 3 or 4 which are no-brainers that you should be like, yes, that's the first 3 we're going to go after, because you can't do 30 at once. You want to pick the first 3 first, and you want to go there. Okay, that is how I enter all my markets first. I try and partner with somebody first with an established base of the customers I'm trying to go after, but I'll only do it after I've established product market fit myself. Okay, so guys, what we've been talking about so far is we've talked about the importance of getting the growth stuff right. We've looked at what are the three core elements of growth. We need to attract, accelerate, and convert. And then we started looking at what are the 3 hot secrets. When I'm entering a market, how do I really practically? 1, I get my product market fit on point. And 2, I make sure then I have a plan for filling my attraction funnel. And I normally start with tribes or partnerships with people with my established user base. Okay, so guys, just conscious, we have covered a lot in a short amount of time. I always get, like I mentioned earlier, I get a lot of questions about what's the best tool for this and what's the best tool for that. It's a question I always get. So I've put together a guide of what are all the growth hacking tools I use, as well as some guides on how to get some free ad credit if you want to test some ad channels and stuff like that. It's all in a guide I've called the Growth Toolkit, and I've added it to my free online community for growth hackers and entrepreneurs. If you want a copy, just scan the barcode, just put your camera up the screen, and a link will pop up, and you just click on it, and it'll bring you straight to join the free Facebook community with like-minded entrepreneurs and founders. And I've loaded up the Growth Toolkit for you to grab there. Okay, so guys, that's me. I'm done. If you have any questions, before we do, actually, I've talked about a lot. Before we do, I just have one last question, because information is great, guys, but you know what's more important than information? Action. Yeah, I prefer, if there's one thing you actually take action on, it's more important than books and books and books of information. So I'd love to know, what is your one takeaway? What's your one nugget of information? Just share in the chat. What is the one thing for you? And then we'll have some time for questions in a second. Okay, what is your one big takeaway from what I have just shared today? What is one thing? We've talked about a lot. What is your one nugget or one idea that you got from today's session? You should go public. Yeah, what else? Tribes. Yeah, tribes are a great concept. Really, really great concept. Love it. Go learn, buy. Huge. Test your strategy ASAP. Get it out of your head and into the market. Absolutely love that. How to fill the funnel, Simone says. Ask where they go, buy, and learn. I love that people are really getting this. I love this. You guys are on it. Consider partnerships, tribes. Love it, guys. Go. Oh yeah, love this. Going where my leads are. Exactly. Your leads are already there. Why not just go there? Exactly, guys. This is really good. I'm so glad you guys have gotten such value from this, and you've really, really gotten it. Now I'm going to. I've got some time for questions. So Renata, it's over to you. And any questions? I'm here.
Howard, thank you so much for your time and contribution today. So even for me, a frequent attendee to our mutual sessions, I took a bunch of ideas with me again. So we have quite a couple of questions queuing here. I would kick off with the very first one. Howard, are you ready for that? Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. How do you partner with already existing groups? Could you bring one brief example on that?
Yeah, sure. Like, and it's something I do all the time. Like, you know, there's a little bit of it depends on the group, right? But if there's one just main thing, just lead with value. Lead with value. Don't go, what you don't do is go, hey, I'm entering the market and I'd love some of your customers. Can you please promote me to your customers? Probably not going to work. But let's just say you have a group of, let's just say entrepreneurs. You want to get in front of tech entrepreneurs in London. If you find a community and you lead with offering a really high value, let's just say your analytics product, you offer a free masterclass on 3 ways to get more value from your analytics. That's really valuable for their audience, and they'll most likely promote it to their audience. So you want to lead with value first. Just like if you're building a relationship in real life, you want to like become friends first before you do an ask. So that's the main thing I would say for any partnership.
And there's another one. How would you rapid test a physical product?
Well, you know, I think the example I gave earlier, the giant zip line, is obviously a physical product, right? So I did give an example of a physical product earlier. Like I don't, you know, I don't know what you're meaning by the physical product exactly, but sometimes the sales process and the actual testing, I think if you're testing if people enjoy the product, that's slightly different than the minimum viable product. In its true sense is usually, you know, going back to the point I made earlier, is what's your riskiest assumption? Now, before you build the product, you want to check, will people buy the product? So I would be checking if people want to buy the product first before you're testing how they interact with the physical product, because at that point you've already built it. So I would kind of go up a few notches and test the demand for the product before you build it.
And how do you test it? How to test it best? So if it is not put together already, how do you actually execute this kind of thing then?
But I try and sell it before I build it. I gave the example earlier of testing the giant zip line by creating an Eventbrite page and selling tickets for it before I built the giant zip line, which is a physical product. If I was trying to launch, let's just say, a new type of iPhone, let's just say a new called the B phone, right? And I thought this was the best idea first. I would create a website, a simple website, and I would make it look as if it's real, and I get some real life. I would try and sell it. I would create some ads and I drive some traffic to it and see if people are interested enough, at least to put in their email information for when it's launching. Dropbox did exactly the same thing when they were launching their product. It was a very technical product at the time, and they just created a landing page with a video of how it was going to work. They dropped it into Hacker News, a community of entrepreneurs, and they said, guys, this is going to take us a year to build. Before we build it, would you let us know in this box if you want us to build it, enter your email. And they got 30,000 people putting the email in, and that said, okay, I'm now confident enough to go off and spend the next year building this product. So I would think about how you could do that, and it may be different for different products.
I see.
Does that answer the question?
Hopefully. So I will have an eye on the chat box and see if there's something following after answering that. So there's another question. What tricks can help you to find a drive in the markets you are not native, or if you are not absolutely involved in this kind of market or new to markets?
Great. I've got this like really advanced like growth hacking strategy, and it's called ask. So find someone who is your target market in the market, one person, and go back to the points I said earlier. Where do you go? What do you buy? And what kind of things you consume? Just ask them. You got to be interviewing your customers a lot. You need to be speaking to your customers a lot. And if you can find one person in the market who is like your target audience, just ask them. Like, you know, what online communities are you part of? Are there any kind of local meetup groups you're part of? Like, they're the kind of questions you need to ask, and that's how you will get that local information. Other than that, there's a few kind of, you know, web research and stuff like that, obviously, but I like the ask is usually the most effective.
So another one, what do you need to watch out for when you partner up with an existing company or even a startup?
What do you need to watch out for is, I think like the key thing is to always make sure that the value is being, like, if you think about it like a seesaw, you know, the like seesaw you play on. If one of the partners is getting more value than the other partner at any time, usually the partnership will break down. So you want to try and keep it, make sure they're getting value and you're getting value at all times. And then the partnership will usually be a long-term and fruitful one. So when you're, you know, and don't assume you know what they want, because like you might want customers, but they might not. They might want credibility. They might want to be partner, like I partner with a lot of global brands, like, you know, Unilever and all these kind of guys, and they want to be positioned as an innovator for PR reasons. So never assume you know what they want. So again, like ask them, just ask them, like, I would always ask the question, what, you know, imagine our partnership is a really successful one. What would you like to get out of it? And they'll tell you.
Yeah, and maybe also create some feedback loops on the way of the partnership, I would say. You've mentioned the book, The Lean Canvas, I guess.
Yes.
Could you provide some details? The author, maybe someone had difficulties to find the book, the actual book.
The Lean Canvas is like a business model canvas. It's a tool within the book. The book is called Running Lean by Ash Moira. Running Lean, and it's a more practical version of The Lean Startup by Eric Ries. You should read both.
I think we will include that in our email afterwards, and then we share that information as well, of course. This is not a problem. So another question, I think we can cover one or two more questions, and then we're running out of time. So talking about affiliates beside classical online marketing, would you consider affiliate as important as online marketing strategy?
Renata, you just broke up a little bit. Did you say the word affiliates?
Yes, exactly. Sorry, connection seems to be a little bit bad. Affiliate marketing in comparison with online marketing.
Yeah, so affiliates is a strategy within the kind of set of online marketing strategies. All right. Now, affiliate marketing is what I call one of the 19 traction channels, and there's essentially 19 different strategies, like kind of what was called traction channels you can use, like social advertising is a traction channel, viral marketing is a traction channel, and affiliate marketing is a traction channel, one of 19 options. Affiliate marketing will not work for everyone, but it will be great for certain businesses. So you want to, and every business, their product and every customer is slightly, you know, every business's customers are slightly different. So affiliate marketing can be incredibly powerful when it's the right strategy for your product and your customer. Okay, so I wouldn't say affiliate marketing works for everyone, but when it works for you and you've got some feedback saying it is going to, I would test it. If it's working, then double down on it and look to grow it. So if it does work, like, it can be incredibly powerful. Yeah, especially if you can get partners promoting you, it's a bit like a partnership, but you're giving them a cut of the revenue. So like it could be a great strategy.
Maybe to sum up or to conclude this session, what are the main common mistakes people do in a critical phase, in a critical growth phase?
Which critical? They're all. Which phase? Like, is it on the launch phase or the growth phase, or which do you think?
Sorry, I mentioned the growth phase. So in the critical, first, when you're doing your transition between putting your product together, testing it, and then you say, okay, it's now ready for the market, and then you just want to take off. Yeah,
like I always think, like, people expect me to say, like, oh, not getting your Facebook pixel right, or some, like, not getting your, analytics, embedded in the right place. But honestly, I always see the three same mistakes. And it's the bit that people think they understand, but they don't quite understand it properly. And it's what I call the three activators of a digital strategy. It is really deeply understanding your target market, like really deeply, way more deeply than you think you do. Like, understand what's going on in their head at all times, because that's when you'll put what's going on in their head, you'll put into your marketing message. And that's the second thing, refining your offer and your messaging constantly till you get it to a point when people see it, your target customer sees it, their eyes should go big and they should go, wow, I want that. And then the third of the activators is keeping focused on a clear, smart goal every kind of like 90 days. So you're not going off track, because like lack of focus is probably one of the biggest killers of startups. They try and do too much and then they don't do anything particularly well, rather than just getting really, really focused on what the next best thing they should do is. So those three things.
Fabulous, thank you. I would say I'm looking forward to our next joint session, which will be in 2 weeks. And would you like to reveal just a tiny little bit what we are talking about on 3rd of December? So we're focusing on a B2B.
Yeah, so so really excited, but more about kind of like the slightly more B2B side of things. So if you're a business rather than a B2C, it's just a slightly different way of thinking about things. Yeah, I'm super excited about it. Yeah, don't know what happened to my slides there, but yeah. So like, I've also launched B2B businesses as well as B2C, and I'll just be talking slightly more on the B2B side. Just one final thing, if anyone does have any follow-up questions, because I know like we covered a lot and not all the questions got to be answered. If you do have a follow-up question, I'm on Facebook Messenger. You can just go to howardkingston.com/chat, or again, QR code, super handy, just scan it and it'll pop up my chat, and you can just chat to me and ask me any questions, follow-up questions you have, happy to.
Thank you so much for your time and contribution, Howard.
Pleasure.
Vielen, vielen Dank auch für die vielen Fragen, die wir aktuell noch reinbekommen. Wir werden die dann durchsichten und je nachdem selbstverständlich auch beantworten. Das heißt, es wird sich in Kürze eine E-Mail in der Inbox befinden. Ich möchte jetzt noch abschließend ganz kurz auf unsere Veranstaltungen, unsere Online-Veranstaltungen noch hinweisen. Wir haben hier ein nachfolgendes, einen zweiten Teil, der eben stark auf B2B fokussieren wird. Am 3. Dezember einfach bitte anmelden über unsere Website oder eine E-Mail an london@wko.at. Auch haben wir im Moment eine vertiefende Brexit-Webinarreihe laufen. Heute am Nachmittag starten wir mit dem Thema Brexit und Wirtschaft, Chancen und Risiken. Es gibt auch weitere 3 Webinarfolgen bis einschließlich 3. Dezember. Wenn Sie hier Interesse haben, auch bitte hier ein kurzes E-Mail an london@wko.at und wir werden Sie mit neuen und aktuellen Informationen versorgen. Ich hoffe, es war viel Spannendes und Interessantes an Informationen für Sie dabei. Mir bleibt jetzt nur zu sagen, stay home, stay healthy und Mahlzeit